ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Come as close as you can, inshallah, because my voice is not that loud. As you know, brothers, we're here to study the lives of some of the great Muslim heroes that have gone past, and inshallah learn lessons from them, because there's no point gaining this knowledge if it's not going to do anything for that. And the whole point basically is example, learn from the example. And inshallah we're going to begin with the story of Imam Abu Hanifa. And before I even begin, I would say to you straight that really an hour you cannot do justice to this hero or any of the heroes really. You know, we're talking about their lives, we're talking about actions really. And you know, so don't think that this is going to do them justice, but we just try to get just a few glimpses, you know, a few main points. And I would also say further that, you know, even the material I have with me right now is too much for me to cover in the time I have. So if you have any questions later on, then please you can ask me. Dave, inshallah, let's begin. I'll say by saying the first statement, and that is that this scholar, like other scholars, they reached their perseverance, their strength, their stances they made because of knowledge they gained. You know, the patience they had was because of knowledge they gained and the sincerity towards Allah. And that inshallah will be more and more become apparent as we go through it. And Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, as you know, he was born 80 years after Hijri, which is 702, and he was a tabi'een. Now tabi'een is somebody who met one of the Sahaba. And of the Sahabi that he has definitely recorded that he's met, it's unanimous amongst the scholars, is Anas bin Malik, who died 93 after Hijri. And Anas bin Malik, is called Khadimi Rasulillah, the servant of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because that's what he was. And he's also one of the people that obviously is quite prominent amongst the literature of hadith, because he gave out because since he lived a long time, many of the scholars, many of the people of knowledge, they took from him knowledge, and so it's said that he's narrated more than 2,000 hadith. And he lived about 100 years. He had more than 100 children, Anas bin Malik. And he said that he himself said that towards the end of this time, he said that there does not remain from those who pray towards the two Qibla except me, i.e. who pray towards Masjid al-Aqsa and then pray towards Kaaba. i.e. pretty much he was the last person, or one of the last people from the Sahaba to die. And one of the statements that he would say to his people a lot was, Ya bunayya qayyidul ilma bil kitab. Oh my child, oh my children, something like this, that record knowledge, you know, with the book, i.e. record knowledge with writing it down. So right from the early ages, this is the kind of thing that he would say to people. And inshallah, as we go through Abu Hanifa, this is what he did to his students as well. He would make them write the things down, you know. And if you think about the students of Abu Hanifa, as inshallah we'll try to touch briefly at the glimpses of touch upon them, you will see that they were very intelligent, smart people. So if they needed to write things down, then definitely we need to write things down. And the key is to not write down everything, but the key is to write down important points, just important points, and try to memorize those important points, those important lessons. Okay, that's the key to writing down notes, not to write down everything. And as you know, the Hanafi fiqh, which is a fiqh is obviously the way we do individual acts of worship, is spread through more than half of the Muslim world today. But it's unfortunate that many of the people who say that we're Hanafi, they do not know his life story, because if they knew his life story, then they would know that clearly that the way he did things, the way he was dynamic, the way he had principles, these people clearly don't have them. And inshallah this will become apparent when you go through his life. So the Hanafi fiqh has was predominant amongst all the other schools of thought in Islamic history, and inshallah today we're going to cover why. And before we start going into his life itself, I thought it'd be important that we go through some of the great scholars have said about him. And this is especially important because about Abu Hanifa there are many people who have hasad on him, are envious towards him. Okay, even today, even later on, people misunderstand him. So that's why it's better to go back to the people who actually met him, what they said. Sufyan al-Thawri, he said, Sufyan al-Thawri, he's one of the greatest scholars that ever lived, and it seems to be clear that he was actually more knowledgeable than Imam Abu Hanifa. He was a contemporary to Imam Abu Hanifa in Kufa itself, which is a city in Iraq. He said to one of the students who used to go and visit both Abu Hanifa and himself, Imam Sufyan al-Thawri, it's recorded that he once said to the students, "Where have you come from?" And he said to him, "I've just come from Abu Hanifa." Then Imam Sufyan al-Thawri, he said to him, لَقَدْ جِئْتَ مِنْ إِنْدِ أَفْقَهِ أَهْلِ الْأَرْضِ, that verily you have come from the one who is the most knowledgeable in fiqh from the people of the earth. So for someone of his stance, from his stature, to say something like this shows that Abu Hanifa, he knew stuff. He does not. Some people claim that he was somebody who only knew fiqh and no hadith, because you can't know fiqh without knowing hadith. It's impossible. And Imam Abdullah bin Mubarak, inshallah, who will be covered today as well, who is one of the students of Imam Abu Hanifa. Therefore, he met him. He called him a sign from Allah. And also in another statement, he said that رَأَيْتُ أَعْبَدَ النَّاسِ وَرَأَيْتُ أَرْوَعَ النَّاسِ وَرَأَيْتُ أَعْلَمَ النَّاسِ وَرَأَيْتُ أَفْقَهَ النَّاسِ, which means that verily I've seen the person who has worshipped Allah the most, and I've seen a person who has been the most Allah fearing the most, and I saw a person who was the most knowledgeable of the people, and I saw a person who was the most knowledgeable in fiqh from the people. He said, as for the one who worshipped Allah the most, for he is someone called Abdul Aziz bin Abi Dawood. And as for the person who is the one who is most God-fearing, he is Fudail ibn Iyad. And as for the one who is the most knowledgeable of people, he is Sufyan al-Thawri, who I just mentioned to you earlier. And as for the one who is the most knowledgeable of people in fiqh, he is Abu Hanifa. And he said, مَا رَأَيْتُ فِي الْفِقْهِ مِثْلَهُ, I did not see anybody in fiqh like him. Okay, and also he's got another statement. He said that مَا رَأَيْتُ أَحَدًا قَطْ تَكَلَّمَ فِي الْفِقْهِ أَحْسَنَ مِنْ أَبِي حَنِيفَةَ, that I have not seen anybody speak about fiqh the way Abu Hanifa spoke about fiqh. And Abdullah bin Mubarak, he is clearly, he's called the Imam of Hadith in his time. He's clearly one of the great references for the Muslims. And the last statement I would say to again indicate what the scholars thought about Abu Hanifa, therefore what we need to think about Abu Hanifa, is a statement of someone called Abdullah bin Dawood, or another scholar. He said, يجب على أهل الإسلام أن يدعو الله لأبي حنيفة في صلاتهم فقد حفظ عليهم السنن والفقه, which means that it is obligatory upon the people of Islam, i.e. the Muslims, that they make dua for Abu Hanifa in their prayer, because verily he safeguarded the sunnah and fiqh. So that's why people should make dua for him. So that's just a brief introduction upon Abu Hanifa. As for his early years, he lived in a time where the Muslims were being oppressed. The Islamic history, basically, if you read about it, you'll see that basically times become after Ali radiallahu anhu, and in fact even at his time and beyond that, which is the first 30-40 years of Islam, after Prophet passed away, of Hijri, the Muslims, as Prophet ﷺ, he said, the Muslim rulers, they be replaced by kingship. Okay, and kingship means basically that the one who is Khalifa, the one who is ruler amongst the Muslims, it's not the one who is most deserving to have it, but rather it's someone who is related to him. And even if the guy who's related to him is not the most deserving or the most knowledgeable or the most pious or the one who's most just, he'll get it. And because of that, if the people at the top are bad, everything else goes bad, and like that, that's what happens in the Muslim state. It started to go down in its thought. It started to go down in its culture. It started to go down in its justice. So he lived in that type of time. And amongst the people that were very close to when he lived was someone called Hajjaj bin Yusuf. And I'm just trying to give you an example of how bad things go. Hajjaj bin Yusuf, he was the governor of Iraq for roughly 20 years. He killed people from the Sahabi. Can you imagine somebody killing somebody from the Sahaba? He killed Abdullah bin Zubair. He killed one of the greatest scholars that ever lived, Sa'id bin Jubair. He was responsible for the killing of Abdullah bin Umar. because Abdullah bin Umar, he was a person that, he was a person that would say the truth no matter who it was. So he said to Hajjaj that verily you're a wrongdoer, you're a fasiq. Okay, so what Hajjaj did was that while he was doing Umrah, he took a spare, he paid someone, and while he was doing Umrah, he got someone to spare Abdullah bin Umar through his leg, and this is what led to his death. So basically, it was a very tyrannical rulership. And because of that, knowledge itself went down quite a lot. And in this atmosphere, when Abu Hanifa, he grew up himself, because since his father passed away at a very early age, he himself, he didn't have the culture where he was to learn knowledge. And if you look at him and compare him to the other great scholars, like, for example, if you compare him to like Ibn Taymiyyah, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi, who from a very early age, their parents were at them saying, look, this is what you need to do, this is the guidance, this is what you need to do, you need to learn this, you need to learn that, you need to go to this scholar, you need to learn other before you learn ilm. He didn't have any of this. Okay? So all he had was his basic Islamic education, which is quite a lot, because in Kufa was one of the main fountainheads of Islam. But basically, after his father passed away when he was very early, he began to devote himself to business. Okay, and he took over his father's business, which is the business of clothes. And I will now narrate to you what was the thing that was inspired him to gain knowledge. And this is roughly when he was about 20. Okay, when he was about 20, a scholar named Imam Ash-Sha'bi. Okay, and Sha'bi, he is also one of the renowned scholars of Islam. And just to give you Imam Sha'bi's status, that one of the other scholars, whose name is Muhammad bin Sirin, he says that when I came to Kufa, okay, Imam Sha'bi was giving circles, and at that time there were many amongst the Sahaba who were still alive. Do you understand? So there were many people who had seen Prophet ﷺ themselves alive, and this man, he's giving circles that a lot of people are coming to. So he became a fountainhead of knowledge, even when there were lots of Sahabi around. And he says, Abu Hanifa, he says that once I was passing by a place, and Imam Sha'bi, he stopped him and he said that, where are you going? Where are you going? I.e., where are you going? And Imam Abu Hanifa at this time, who was a young 20-year-old man, a businessman, he said that, I'm going to the marketplace to do my business. And then Imam Sha'bi, he said, no, I don't mean that. I mean, which scholar do you attend? Which scholar do you go? And then he said to him, why? Then he said to him, فَإِنِّي أَرَى فِيكَ يَقْظَةً وَحَرَكَةً. Because I see in you that you have a keen, attentive mind, and you are someone who is active. So this is what Imam Sha'bi, he saw this just by looking at him. And he said about the scholars, about the pious scholars, right, the early scholars especially, that they would see with the light of Allah. It wasn't that they would see, they would look at a person and they would see that this guy is someone who did sins a lot. They look at this guy and they would see the nur in his face, that this is someone who worships Allah a lot. And something like that, right? He saw in Abu Hanifa at this very young age that this man, he had something.